One company on one small island makes over 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips. The phone in your pocket, the AI chatbot you used this morning, the fighter jets defending entire nations. All of it depends on machines built in factories on this single island, Taiwan. And one government just 100 miles away says this island belongs to them. Today, we're breaking down exactly why China wants Taiwan so badly, the history, the strategy, and the trillion-dollar stakes that could affect everyone on Earth. To understand this conflict, we have to go back to 1949. China had just finished a brutal civil war between two sides, the Communist Party, led by Mao Zedong, and the nationalist government, led by Chiang Kai-shek. The Communists won control of mainland China. The defeated nationalist government didn't surrender. They retreated. About 2 million people fled across the Taiwan Strait to the island of Taiwan, bringing their government, their military, and their gold reserves with them. They set up what they called the Republic of China, right there on the island, and claimed they were still the legitimate government of all of China. Meanwhile, on the mainland, the Communist Party declared the People's Republic of China and claimed they were the legitimate government, with Taiwan as a breakaway province that would eventually be reunified. Here's the key fact. The People's Republic of China has never, not even for a single day, governed Taiwan. But Beijing has always considered it Chinese territory, temporarily separated, not permanently independent. That's the seed planted over 75 years ago, and it hasn't been resolved since. From China's official perspective, this isn't really a debate. It's settled. Beijing calls this the One China principle, the idea that there is only one China and Taiwan is part of it. Most countries around the world, including the United States, officially acknowledge this position, even while maintaining unofficial ties with Taiwan. For China's leadership, reclaiming Taiwan isn't just politics. It's deeply tied to national identity. Chinese President Xi Jinping has described reunification with Taiwan as essential to what he calls China's national rejuvenation. This connects to a larger historical narrative China's government promotes, the idea of the century of humiliation, a period in the 1800s and early 1900s when foreign powers carved up Chinese territory and forced unequal treaties on a weakened China. In this narrative, a divided China, with Taiwan separate from the mainland, represents unfinished business, an open wound from that era of humiliation that hasn't fully healed. Reuniting Taiwan with the mainland, in Beijing's view, would complete China's rise as a unified modern superpower, finally closing that historical chapter for good. Now here's where it gets complicated, because Taiwan tells a very different story. For over 70 years, Taiwan has functioned as a self-governing democracy. It has its own elected president, its own military, its own constitution, its own currency, and its own passport. Most people living in Taiwan today were born after the 1949 split. Generations have grown up never having lived under Communist Party rule. Polling consistently shows that most people in Taiwan do not want to be governed by Beijing. Many increasingly identify as simply Taiwanese rather than Chinese, a shift that's accelerated in recent decades. China offered a model for reunification called One Country, Two Systems, the same framework used for Hong Kong, where Hong Kong was promised it could keep its own legal and economic system under Chinese sovereignty. But here's the problem for Beijing's pitch. China effectively ended that arrangement in Hong Kong in 2020, cracking down on the very freedoms it had promised to protect. For many in Taiwan, that was proof the one country, two systems promise couldn't be trusted. Watching Hong Kong's autonomy disappear made the idea of voluntary unification with Beijing far less appealing, making the prospect of joining the mainland look less like an opportunity and more like a warning. Here's where this stops being just a regional dispute and becomes something that affects every single person watching this video. Taiwan isn't just strategically located. It sits at the center of the modern global economy because of one industry, semiconductors, computer chips. One company, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, produces over 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductor chips. These aren't just any chips. They're roughly 99% of the chips used to train the most advanced artificial intelligence models on Earth. Think about what runs on these chips: smartphones, laptops, electric vehicles, medical devices, fighter jets, missile guidance systems, and increasingly, the AI systems reshaping nearly every industry on the planet. Economists estimate that a full-scale conflict over Taiwan could cause around $10 trillion in global economic losses. And that's before counting the human cost. This dependency has created what analysts call Taiwan's Silicon Shield, the theory that the world, and particularly the United States, has such a massive economic interest in Taiwan's stability that it would intervene to prevent China from seizing control of the island and its chip factories. But here's the twist. This shield might not work the way people assume. Some analysts argue the more realistic danger isn't a dramatic invasion. It's a slow squeeze, a blockade, a quarantine, or political pressure that ends with Taiwan's government simply accepting Beijing's terms. In that scenario, the chip factories don't get destroyed. They just end up under new management. Either way, this tiny island's factories have become so important that conflict here wouldn't just be a regional war. It would be an economic earthquake felt in every country on Earth. So where does that leave things right now? China has avoided launching a full invasion for now. Instead, Beijing has relied on a broader toolkit: diplomatic isolation, economic pressure, information operations, and near-constant military activity around the island, all designed to wear down Taiwan's resolve without triggering all-out war. Military pressure has been escalating, including large-scale war games around the island that demonstrate China's growing military capability. Meanwhile, the United States maintains a deliberately vague position known as strategic ambiguity, never explicitly promising to defend Taiwan, but never ruling it out either. Washington continues to sell weapons to Taiwan, which Beijing strongly objects to. Some analysts believe a window of opportunity for China is narrowing, pointing to global events that have stretched American military and political attention elsewhere. Others argue China still has strong reasons to avoid military action. The economic damage to China itself, the risk of failure, and the disruption to trade relationships it has been working to stabilize. There's no consensus on what happens next. Predictions have ranged from this decade to this never happens. What virtually all analysts agree on is this: Taiwan has become the single most dangerous flashpoint in the relationship between the world's two largest economies. At its core, this is a conflict shaped by three powerful forces colliding at once: history, an unresolved civil war, and a deep sense of national identity; democracy, a self-governing population of over 23 million people who get a say in their own future; and economics, a tiny island that, almost by accident, became the most important piece of real estate in the global tech economy. Whatever happens next in the Taiwan Strait won't just be a regional story. It will shape the price of your next phone, the pace of AI development, the balance of power between the world's two largest economies. This is a story still being written, and it's one of the most important stories of our time. If this breakdown helped you understand the situation better, hit subscribe for more deep dives into the world's biggest geopolitical flashpoints. Drop a comment. What topics should we break down next? Thanks for watching.